So before picking up the Scrambler 1200XE, I had the Triumph Bobber. I really liked it for riding on the street, but having grown up racing motocross and riding dirt, I really liked the off-road ability that the Scrambler promised. And it actually works pretty well, but I realized pretty soon after having it for a year or so that I did more on-road than I really did off-road, and what I really needed was kind of an adventure bike. So since I'm upside down on the Scrambler right now, I figured the best thing I could do is basically do what I could to kind of turn it into a touring adventure bike. One of the first things I wanted to add was a windscreen, and I came across a channel that had this Unit Garage windscreen, and I really liked how it looked. The OEM version to me is too small and doesn't really do that much. So I went ahead and ordered this from Italy, actually. The channel that I learned about this from was great. It had some tips as far as the installation goes. There's a couple things that you really want to do that aren't really mentioned in the directions. So removing the high fender seemed to be something that you really want to do, since it gets it out of the way of the headlight, because you have to remove the headlight and get it out of the way to install the bracket that'll hold the windscreen. Another tip that he shared was to use some tape and actually put it on the headlight, and then also put it on the headlight bracket, and then mark a couple marks so that when you put the headlight back in, you can actually line it up exactly where it was, so you don't have to worry about whether it's a squirrel shooter shooting at the top of the trees or pointing straight down. So after getting the headlight undone, I just kind of put the bracket in to see where it's going to line up, see what kind of wires I needed to move. So it was recommended that you make sure to use some Loctite on the bolts, which I usually do for anything that I don't really want to unbolt very often. Seemed to get more Loctite on my finger in that one than I did on the actual bolt. Now the person that I watched that installed this had a pretty decent little ratchet set up for the back bolts. I didn't have that, and quite honestly the back bolts are kind of a pain in the butt. The other person also said that he had some problem getting these rubber grommets in. I don't know if they've changed something, but these actually went in with no problem. And then I kind of did this backwards. I probably should have had gloves on while I was doing the first part, but I put on gloves afterwards since my hands were pretty greasy, so I didn't get it all over the acrylic windscreen. But from this point on, the windscreen went on pretty easy, obviously. The washers for the windscreen screws have a little lip that you can put the little covers on. Just kind of makes it look a little better, so it doesn't look like there's just screws sticking out. They actually went on pretty easy. So at that point it was just getting the headlight back on, making sure it was lined up with the screws that I had, or the marks that I had, and then putting the high fender back on. And that was pretty much it for the install. So time for the ride and my first thoughts on the windscreen. You sit pretty tall on the Scrambler, so I knew that I'd still have wind kind of hitting my helmet, and that's fine. The main thing that I was kind of concerned about was the wind that you get when you're going pretty fast, just trying to pull you off the back of the bike, basically. The first part of the ride, the roads that I was on, I couldn't really go that fast, but I could tell a little bit of a difference. It was a Friday afternoon, so there was quite a bit of traffic for people heading home, and I really didn't get up to speed, but I liked what I was feeling so far. I could definitely tell that the wind wasn't hitting me direct in the chest as much. I was getting a little bit of side-to-side buffering, but you know, a lot of the side-to-side buffering the motorcycle companies take care of with attachments that actually go on the frame of the bike, so you know, the windscreen's actually doing its job. So I finally found a stretch of road that there wasn't any cars on, and I was able to get up a little speed, and at that point I could really tell that the difference in the wind that's hitting you straight in the chest, which is the main reason that I really wanted to put on a windscreen, was working really well. The little vent that they have at the top really keeps the windscreen from doing any kind of shaking or having too much resistance. I did find that basically the faster that you go, the more kind of side-to-side buffering you are getting, but in between that sweet spot of like from 60 to 70 miles an hour, it actually does really well. It takes all the wind off your chest, and you don't really get a lot of side-to-side buffering. Once you get up above about 75, I found, you know, you do get a bit of, you know, side-to-side buffering, but I think it's mainly because you're getting, you know, the turbulence from the windscreen, obviously, and then, you know, you're not feeling that straight wind to the chest that's trying to pull you off the back of the bike, and you have to hold on harder. And that's the main thing. I knew, you know, if I was going to do some highway miles, I didn't want to sit there and basically have to hold on anytime I got up to 65, 70. So honestly, this is doing exactly what I want it to do, and I'm pretty happy with it. So I really like the product. It's really well manufactured, comes from Italy, ships really quick. I was really surprised how fast it got here, and you know, just made really well and works exactly how I wanted it to. I think as far as windscreens go for the Scrambler, it's the best that I've seen, at least that I've been able to find. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video, and have more for you soon.